Good evening, everyone. Hello, I'm Mark Oliver, the organiser of dev.talk and your host for tonight. We're going to move on to introduce you to our next speaker. So I'd like to introduce Mark Oliver, Principal Software Engineer. He's over 25 years of experience in the software industry and throughout his career developed multi-million-pound software solutions for the aerospace, e-commerce and telephony sectors. Successfully led teams of various sizes, leaving a lasting impact on both his colleagues, some of which are in the room, so they might tell you differently, and the projects delivered. And also the founder of dev.talk community. Let's all welcome Mark to the stage. So today I want to show you how one small tool can remove a surprising amount of daily friction across repositories and stacks by taking you on a journey. And there's going to be a video that's not going to play. So, do you wander across many repositories and technology stacks? Have you ever stood before a terminal wondering what incantation must be spoken and in which environment? In the lands of modern development, every project brings its own tools, versions, and commands. What begins as a simple journey soon becomes a tangle of scripts, forgotten setup scripts, and environments that refuse to behave. But there is another way. Oh, it's working. That wasn't working a minute ago. Good. So let me introduce you to Middle-earth and its lands. We have Rivendell, a place of beauty and elves, with a tech stack of Node.js, Cypress, and Webpack. And then we move on to the land of Moria, which is the land of the dwarves. And they like Go, GoTest, and Docker or Podman, depending on what you want. And then the best of all, Rohan, place of horse riders, men in inverted commas, with a tech stack of C#, because it's the coolest one, I will hear no different, and XUnit, and build executable files for deployment. And then there's the Shire, a place of peace, quiet, and hobbits, with a tech stack of COBOL, because why not, a custom test framework and a custom script deployments. And this is my home. Hi, I'm Mungo Took. In Old English, Mark Oliver. I'm a Principal Software Engineer, co-founder of dev.talk, co-director of Reconnect Events, and a traveling hobbit cook. I want to take you on a journey, and we must travel from our home in Hobbiton to Mount Doom. And we'll pass through Rivendell, Moria, and Rohan. We're not able to take anything with us except our smoking pipe, and so are expected to survive in these foreign lands. And we're the cook. We're the cook for the fellowship, and our job is to get ingredients or install our tooling, cook food in the style of the land, build our code, and feed our hosts using the customs of their land, which might be a deployment. But we need to be prepared, because one does not simply go on a journey unprepared. And we are prepared. We have the one tool to rule them all, mise. But be careful, it's a powerful artifact that entraps its users to be devout to forevermore. One of our previous users of the tool. But first, an ad break. You can skip it in 30 seconds. So mise is a tool that manages installations of programming language runtimes and other tools for local development. For example, it can be used to manage multiple versions of Node.js, Python, Ruby, Go, etc. on the same machine. And once activated, it can automatically switch between these versions based on the directory you're in. So that means if you have a project that requires Node.js 18 and another that requires Node.js 22, mise will automatically switch between them as you move between the two projects. It gives us a consistent command surface a predictable per project tool version with less context switching. So same interface, different repo, less cognitive overhead. And now back to the show. So let's continue on our journey through Middle-earth. So we need to feed our hosts. We have 3 tasks. We need to gather ingredients, so which runtime version we need, what compiler, what are our test tooling. We need to cook the food, like what command do we use to actually do this compilation? How do we lint our code? How do we run the tests? And then we need to serve the food. So what command do we need to use to create a deployment to push something into production? So let me give you an example. I can't read it on there anymore. So eating at Rivendell, the ingredients are lembas bread. The instructions are bake it in an underground oven overnight. The serving custom is it must be served on lembas leaves. But if we're eating at Moria, using the Moria repo, our ingredients are salted pork and ale. Our instructions are do not make a sound. Our serving customs are in, well, lots of it, and as long as it's got a flagon of beer. And then again, if we're in Rohan, we have something completely different. Our ingredients are pretty much anything we can throw in a stew, with the instructions of put anything you find into a stew and make sure it's hot. But the most important thing of all is the serving customs are very different, because the horses must eat first, and then anybody else who happens to be sat down can have some too. But this is too much for a hobbit brain. There is an easier way, and Smeagol knows the way. So did somebody say potatoes? Sorry, potatoes. Get it right. We are the cook. We have to remember that. We're the cook. We have 3 tasks at every stop of our journey. Gathering the ingredients, install the tooling, cook the food, compile and test, and serve the food, deploy. So if we're in Rivendell, we need to install Node.js, Cypress, and Webpack. And then we need to do an npm build, and then a Cypress run, and then a Webpack compile. But if we're in Moria, we have to install Go, GoUnit, Composer, Docker. And we have to remember it's Docker compose build. That's how we build it. It's GoUnit run to run the tests, and Docker compose deploy to actually push that to our production environment. And in Rohan, we have to install .NET and XUnit. We can use build.NET or .NET build, it should be, and .NET test to actually run our tests. And again, .NET deploy or publish to actually create our deployment. So that's a lot to remember. We've got 3 different tech stacks with a dozen or so commands to remember, and we're working across all of these. So let's simplify. We must gather ingredients, we must cook the food, we must serve the food. So the key is that every land knows how to gather the ingredients, knows how to cook them, and knows how to serve them. So they remember it rather than me. I don't need to know what the secrets are. Think of it as having like a little local hobbit help you at every step. One that lives in Moria, one that lives in Rohan, one that lives in Rivendell. And so us as cooks on our journey, we just have to remember how to gather ingredients, how to cook the food, how to serve the food. But why can't I just serve potatoes? I know how to do that. That's the thing I know how to do. So again, the key is my precious mise, as it's pronounced. I know, another ad. So here are the 3 repositories and how we will set them up. So we've got Rivendell here. We're going to run a command, mise-install. It's going to install Node.js. We're going to do mise run build, and it will figure out how to build TypeScript files. Mise run test, and it's going to run our Cypress tests. And mise run deploy is going to run Webpack. But if we're over in Moria, we can again run mise install, but that's going to install Go. We're going to mise run build, and that's going to build our Go files and test and run deploy. In this case, is going to use Docker. And you could probably guess Rohan, mise install, mise run build, mise run test, mise run deploy. We have a common interface across all of our repositories, yet a very different tech stack underneath it all. So, hello world time. Well, this is where it all breaks because I don't think the video is going to work. So we have 3 repos here. This is a 3-page terminal. This is a real screenshot. So what you're going to see is what actually happened. This is not fake. This is just 3 terminal panes. The speed is a bit relative depending on the internet speeds at the time. Mine was going very slow, and you'll see that in a moment. This is sped up to fit it in, so we don't sit here for 2.5 minutes. You'll see the running mise commands in yellow and the output from that below them. And we're starting from having the repositories on my machine. We've only got mise installed, and we've got the repository source code. That's all we've got installed at this point. So fingers crossed this works, otherwise it's not going to go well. Aha! So we ran mise install tools. The one in the middle is going much faster, as you can see. Mise install, mise build, mise deploy, mise start. They all are running the same commands here in yellow. And we can see, probably can't, Cypress has just run here, Go's running here, .NET. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. And .NET on the right-hand side doing a .NET install. It's one of the slowest ones at the start because .NET's quite a big download in its first instance. And you can see we've just executed the same command in all 3 repositories. And they've all run different things. And like I say, that's running on my machine at that time. So let's dive into that a little. Let's look at Rohan. So Rohan runs from a single config file called mise.toml in its root. And let's take a look at that. Look, it looks a little like this. We can see we specify the tools we want to use, in this case .NET 10. The things we want to install, potentially, using .NET Restore. The build tasks, in this case .NET Build. Test, .NET Test. Deploy, .NET Publish. And for start, we're going to actually run use .NET Run to run the tool. So the repository, the Rohan repository, knows how to do all of those things. You've pre-programmed it, you've told it what to do. But as the person who's interacting with it, all I have to know is what the commands are. And the commands are by the tasks there, task.build, so that means mise-run build would activate that. Rivendell has a slightly different setup. Again, the mise-toml file here. But we can also add additional tasks by dumping them into a .mise task folder with a specific name. So Rivendell's start task is actually a completely separate script from the toml. And so we can have very complicated scripts if we choose to. So here are the 3. Yeah, I've got them all on the screen. These are the 3 scripts that you just saw running here. And Moria has the start file commented out because it's not using that, it's using that script we were talking about. What else? Yeah, and so they all have these common tasks defined. And now back to the show. So we're a happy hobbit. I only need to remember those top level mise tasks regardless of what part of Middle Earth I'm in. So in Rivendell, Moria, Rohan, I need to remember mise install, mise build, mise test, mise deploy. Moria, exactly the same. Rohan, exactly the same. I don't care about the tech stack. I know how to build it. I know how to run it. I know how to deploy it. So there's much rejoicing for all our hobbit cooks on our journey. So let's have a look at the benefits of mise. Don't have to remember cryptic commands. Anybody remember how to do a .NET build? Can you remember the command? No? I do. mise-deploy. Yeah? So, and it gives us a consistent dev env for the team. All everybody has to know within your team is those top level commands. It can run in CI. Mise is perfectly capable of running in its CI. There's extensions for it in many IDEs. It's completely configurable and cross-platform. It's just a set of tooling that allows you to set it up as you want to. I've given you an example of install, test, build, compile. Those are because that's what I want. That's how I work. But you can set it up to however you want it. And it can do complex scripts. So we're at the end of our journey now. We've successfully fed our fellowship through all the lands we've visited. It's time for a flagon of beer and some second breakfast. But one last thing, a call to action. So if you are ever journeying through lots of strange lands regularly, reduce the pain of keeping that in our potato-focused brain. Remember this. When every repository has a different recipe book, we lose time to ritual. So try it in one project this week. Start small and expand it. Mise restores order, consistency, and calm across your workflow. Thank you.